In this video, I have compiled every single unstable exotic concept I have made throughout the course of the season. If you guys happen to enjoy this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing and using code WATSOG in the Fortnite item shop. And yeah, let's get straight into the video. Alright, to kick things off, we have the Unstable Static Assault Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Fury Assault Rifle, and whenever you hit an opponent with the Unstable Static Assault Rifle, it will produce a shock of lightning that will chain towards nearby enemies and do small damage. So basically, this is just a chain lightning effect. If you've played a game where, you have like a lightning effect, it's likely that they use like the chain kind of effect, where when you do damage to one person, it'll do damage to everyone in the surrounding area as long as you hit the shot. So pretty simple idea for an exotic, but I think it's cool, and I'm surprised we haven't seen something like this in the game already, unless I'm forgetting something. If so, I'm sure you guys will tell me. But yeah, just a simple little exotic version of the Fury Assault Rifle, kind of fits the unstable kind of idea without being too broken, in my personal opinion. And also, before we continue, I just want to say I love how these weapons turned out looking, like the nice purple and gold kind of galaxy effect. So nice. It's so nice, bro. It's so cool. Alright, next we have the Unstable Overlord Spire Rifle. So obviously, this is an exotic version of the Spire Rifle, and when firing the Unstable Overlord Spire Rifle, instead of firing individual bullets, it will fire a continuous laser beam that creates a small explosion wherever it hits. So basically, kind of envision like a balanced version of that laser beam that the Overlord Spires fire every once in a while when you fight them. It would basically be that, but as a weapon that you could hold instead of it just being like an attack that the boss uses against you. So I think that would be a cool idea for a weapon. Kind of shoots sort of like a ray gun, if you want to think about it like that, kind of. But yeah, I just think that the Spire Rifle is already pretty good, so I don't really know if there's anything you can really do to it to really make it any better. So I don't know if maybe this would be better than the OG Spire Rifle, or maybe it'd be worse than it. I don't know. You guys can debate that in the comments, but I think it's a fun little gimmick kind of a weapon, kind of takes a boss weapon and then makes it into like a new weapon, kind of. It's cool, it's unique, and I'm a fan of how this weapon turned out, in my personal opinion. Next, we have the Unstable Steamfire Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the exotic Twinfire Auto Shotgun. I believe it's called the Twinfire Auto Shotgun, unless it's called the Twinfire Shotgun. I honestly don't remember, but that's besides the point. When you hit an opponent with the Unstable Steamfire Shotgun, it will leave behind a steam cloud that does 10 damage at the same rate as a stink cloud. So, you shoot someone, you hit them, steam cloud, 10 damage, gets you like an extra 10-20 damage maybe on your opponent, which is nice little benefit. Just basically increases the damage overall of this weapon, which I feel like this is a weapon that definitely needs the damage increase, since you're shooting 2 pellets at a time, or 2 shells at a time, I should say. You're using 2 shells every time you shoot this thing, so having weak damage on this thing isn't really viable, which is why it's never really been good. So I think just having that extra damage would definitely help push this weapon to be better, And, another way you can kind of think about this weapon working is if you've ever played Plants vs. Zombies game, Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, there is a version of the scientist in that game that will shoot like a steam cloud kind of effect. And that's kind of like the same kind of effect I'd envision with this shotgun. A little steam cloud does extra damage, while your opponent's in it. Kind of how I envision this weapon working. And I definitely think this would be a fun exotic, in my personal opinion. Next, we have the Unstable Rift SMG. This is an exotic version of the Veiled Precision SMG, and this is probably the most broken item on this list, I have to say. When firing the Unstable Rift SMG, every bullet has a small chance to spawn a junk rift. Each clip can only spawn 1 junk rift, so you will need to reload before you can spawn another one. So, just kind of explain that a little bit better. When you're firing this, 1 bullet in your clip has a chance to spawn the junk rift. Now, once you spawn that junk rift, in order to spawn another junk rift with this weapon, you'll have to reload. So, you fire it, you get 1 junk rift off, then you fire the rest of the clip that you have, you reload, and then you start firing again, and then you can spawn another junk rift. So, yeah, I feel like this weapon would be a bit busted, just having infinite junk rifts, kind of insane. But, it's an exotic weapon. What can you do? It's gotta be kind of gimmicky. Definitely not gonna be in comp, this one. I can tell you that very much right now. Definitely not a comp weapon. This thing might be a bit busted, but, it's fun. So, who really cares at the end of the day? Fun, gimmicky SMG. Love to see it. Alright, next we have the Unstable Breacher SMG. This is an exotic version of the Searchfire SMG, and the longer you fire the Unstable Breacher SMG, not only does it fire rate increase, like a normal Searchfire SMG, its structure damage also increases exponentially, instantly breaking fully built metal walls. So basically, when you start shooting this thing, its structure damage is just like the normal Searchfire, but as you keep firing it, that structure damage keeps increasing, until eventually near the end of the clip, it's basically just breaking through everything, as it says, breaking fully built metal walls. This would probably be a busted weapon, And you know, if this was actually added to the game, Epic would probably nerf it to do no structure damage at all, like they did with the Breacher Shotgun, which I don't get why you're gonna nerf a weapon to do no structure damage at all when the whole point of it is to do a ton of structure damage. But that's besides the point. This weapon probably be busted, probably be overpowered, you know, but it's fun. It's kind of a gimmicky kind of weapon, kind of fits into a class of weapons we already have. So you know, it's basically kind of like a perfect exotic, you know, Fortnite. If you want to take this idea and just add it in the next update, you're more than welcome to do that, you know. So you know, I think this would be a fun exotic. Next, we have the unstable push and pull revolvers. These are exotic versions of the kill switch revolvers, and every time you reload the unstable push and pull revolvers, they switch between pulling your opponents towards you and pushing them away. So basically, you pick them up, you start shooting them, and they pull your opponents towards you so you can get them closer in range to you. But then after you run out, you reload the weapon, and then you start shooting them again, it starts pushing them away. So basically, kind of envision this as like a mix of like the Yoink shotgun and the Dub shotgun, but mixed into one weapon, and it just keeps switching between those two every time you reload. Kind of a fun idea for a weapon, you know, kind of pulls on the, you know, dual wield kind of aesthetic or like gimmick of these weapons, you know, so I think it'll be fun, you know. And I feel like not a lot of like dual wield kind of weapons really play into the fact that they're dual wields, you know. I feel like the only one that really does that is the pump and dump, so it would be nice to see more weapons kind of use that dual wield kind of idea more, you know, so I think that'd be a good idea. Next, we have the unstable Rush DMR. This is an exotic version of the Deadeye DMR, and when you hit an opponent with the unstable Rush DMR, you'll be granted the Gold Rush effect for a brief period of time. So basically, the idea of this is that you hit your opponent, get the Gold Rush effect, and then you can start pushing your opponent and finish them off from there. You know, I feel like this weapon would be kind of annoying. It would kind of be like how the Huntress DMR was used in like Chapter 5, where it would basically just be like used to pick off opponents, and then, you know, once you get them low, push, instant free kills, you know? That's kind of how I see this weapon being used, you know? And maybe it wouldn't be too good because people will be like, well, I could just like do this other thing or whatever, even though there's not really too great of movement in this season. I mean, like, there's good movement items, but you know what I mean. But you know, I think this would be a fun exotic weapon. I don't know how useful it would be, though. You know, the Deadeye DMR is not really too great in my personal opinion. That's probably going to annoy someone. Someone's probably going to be in the comments being like, the Deadeye DMR is like the best DMR we've ever seen. But I don't agree with that opinion at all. So fight me in the comments about that one. But you know, I feel like this would be a fun idea for a weapon. You know, kind of a good idea in my personal opinion. You know, it's a weapon that's meant to get you to be able to rush your opponent, get them weak before you do so. You know, that kind of idea. You know, it's fun. Next, we have the unstable critical damage assault rifle. This is an exotic version of the collateral damage assault rifle, and every shot you hit with the unstable critical damage assault rifle has a chance to be a critical hit, no matter if you hit a headshot or not. I should have put that in there, but I didn't. I forgot to do that. When you hit a headshot and get a lucky critical hit, you will do extra damage. So basically, the critical damage is stacked on top of whatever damage you already hit. So the body shot damage would basically just go to match a headshot if you get a critical hit, and then if you hit a headshot, that critical damage will add on to the headshot. So you'll be doing, like, for example, I think the collateral does like 23 headshot in gold, something like that. Basically, you hit a headshot, 23 damage. That critical hit, though, would make it be like 35. So imagine 35 on an assault rifle with that fast a fire rate. And also, I believe that's at range too. So I honestly don't remember how much the collateral damage does because I have not used it in a while, but I'm pretty sure it does something like 15 or something in Blitz. So I don't know, but you get the idea. You know, just basically a collateral damage that does more damage overall. You know, kind of like a luck-based weapon, but, you know, a lot of weapons in this game are luck-based, just with, like, bloom being a thing, you know? So, who knows? I think this will be a fun weapon, but nothing too crazy, in my opinion. Next, we have the unstable Frostfire Pump and Dump. This is an exotic version of the Pump and Dump, and every shot you hit with the shotgun slows down your opponent's movement speed, and every shot you fire with the SMG will increase your movement speed. This is basically just what the exotic Sentinel Pump, the exotic Frostfire Pump Shotgun does, but kind of utilizing that dual wield kind of gimmick. Like I said earlier with the kill switch revolvers, or the push and pull revolvers as the exotic version I came up with is called. I wish more dual wield weapons would play into the fact that they're dual wield weapons and like do something different for each weapon in your hand. So I think having this weapon basically play on that Frostfire effect that the Sentinel Pump has in its exotic version, and split that between both weapons so that you can activate either whenever you want, I think is definitely a fun little gimmick, and I think it definitely improves upon the existing Frostfire shotgun's gimmick, because, you know, the Frostfire shotgun, it's good, but you're not carrying it for that effect, you know what I'm saying? You will just be carrying it because it's the equivalent of a gold Sentinel Pump. So, if you get it off of an Overlord Spire, of course you're going to pick it up, but you aren't going to be, like, going out of your way to grab this, you know what I'm saying? So having a weapon that kind of utilizes that gimmick and kind of lets you kind of choose when you want to use each gimmick, I don't know, I just feel like it fleshes out a bit more, you know? So I think this is another good weapon that utilizes the fact that it's a dual wield weapon, you know, something I think we should see more of in the future. And finally, our final exotic for this video, and exotic that I feel like someone's gonna get mad at me because the suppressed pistol already has an exotic, and I already made an exotic suppressed pistol for my other exotic series, the Lawless series from Chapter 6 Season 2, but I don't care. I'm gonna make more exotic suppressed pistols. Anytime they introduce a new kind of exotic suppressed pistols come in. Just you wait. They introduce a new exotic type next season, exotic suppressed pistols coming, I'm telling you. But besides the point, we have the unstable stink pistol, obviously an exotic version of the suppressed pistol, and whenever you fire the unstable stink pistol, every shot fired has a chance to spawn a stink cloud where it landed. Very simple gimmick here, you know, just spawns a stink cloud wherever it lands. Could be good for box fights, but you know, it's nothing too crazy. I feel like the effect would kind of be similar to the stink rifle where it's not too effective, but I feel like this would be a little bit better because it's more spammable than the stink rifle. So, you know, who knows? Who really knows how good this weapon would actually be? You know, suppressed pistol in its current state is already pretty solid, so, you know, could be like the best thing ever. You know, who knows? Alright, first we have the unstable Yeet Twister AR. This is an exotic version of the Hollow Twister AR, and when you hit an opponent with the unstable Yeet Twister AR, they'll be launched up into the air. Now, this weapon's probably a bit gimmicky. Who knows, maybe it'd be good. The original comment did not specify if this would give you fall damage or not. I would assume if this was like actually added to the game, probably not, just an assumption there, but if it did not give fall damage, it probably wouldn't be that good, just because having a weapon that makes your opponent basically fly whenever you hit it, when you're supposed to be landing like multiple consecutive shots in order for it to be good, doesn't really work. You know, it's a fun little gimmick weapon, you know, it'd probably be a fun weapon, but in terms of how useful it'd be, probably not that much, you know. But, you know, maybe that's a good thing, considering the Hollow Twister is a bit broken, so maybe it could use getting a little bit of a nerf, you know. So, you know, there's always two sides of every coin. You know, this one, the good side is the Hollow Twister would be in the game and it wouldn't be broken, and the bad side is this weapon would probably suck to use in game. Unless it gave fall damage, but knowing Epic, it probably would not give any fall damage. So, you know, an exotic Hollow Twister, or I should say a second exotic Hollow Twister, because we already have the Lawless one, but you know what I'm saying. Next, we have the unstable Marksman Mammoth pistol. This is obviously an exotic version of the Mammoth pistol, and the unstable Marksman Mammoth pistol has a very low body shot damage. However, if you hit a headshot with this weapon, it will do 250 damage. This is obviously very similar to the Marksman 6 shooter. However, this is like way better in my opinion. You know, the low body shot damage, you know, is a bit, you know, unfortunate for this weapon. It means you basically have to hit headshots for it to be good, but if you hit a headshot with this thing, it's insane. So I think this weapon would be like really good. I don't know if people prefer it over the normal Mammoth pistol. I feel like people would probably still take like a gold Mammoth over this, but you know, who cares? This would be fun to have in the game regardless. It would definitely add more skill to the Mammoth pistol because you would have to get a headshot every time for it to be effective at all, but who knows, maybe this would be like the best weapon in the game and it would take no skill somehow, but I don't think that would be the case. I think this weapon would take a little bit of skill to use correctly, but you know, maybe this is broken, maybe this isn't. Who knows? Next, we have the unstable time flip rifle. This is an exotic version of the flapjack rifle, and every time you hit an opponent with the unstable time flip rifle, they'll be frozen in time for a brief period of time. A lot of usage on the word time there. A lot of time. This weapon would probably be a bit broken, you know, just basically freezing your opponent in time every time you hit them, especially with a spray weapon, would probably be broken. This weapon would definitely not be in competitive. Could you imagine if they put this weapon in competitive? Basically just freeze your opponent in storm every time you hit them. Just free target, free elim. Definitely not a competitive weapon. Like, this weapon would be busted. Like, there's no question about it. This would be overpowered, you know? But, you know, who knows? Maybe it would be balanced. It doesn't seem like it, but maybe they would like nerf it like the second it came out. Probably what would happen if this weapon was actually added to the game. But, you know, it's just a fun little, you know, exotic weapon, you know, kind of gimmicky. Given how you get unstable weapons, there's not just one of them on the map anymore. You could buy them from NPCs and then get them from the Overlord Spires too, so there would be multiple of these on the map, so I feel like this would be a bit problematic of a weapon. What can you do? Good thing this isn't actually coming to the game, am I right? Next, we have the unstable Stealth Burst SMG. This is an exotic version of the Thunder Burst SMG, and every time you reload the unstable Stealth Burst SMG, you have a chance at becoming invisible for a short period of time. So this weapon I feel like would play like a similar role to like Frostfire shotgun, where the original weapon itself is good, and that's why this weapon is good. The exotic effect has nothing to do with how good this weapon actually is, because invisibility just is not good in Fortnite. Like, let's be real. Anytime any sort of invisibility item has been good, it's never because it has invisibility. It's always because there's like some second factor. The only one I guess you could argue is the Shogun X medallion, because that gives you invisibility when you sprint, which makes you harder to hit while sprinting. But that's like the only item like that. Like every other invisibility item, not very good. Like, for example, we have Core's medallion in the game right now, which gives you invisibility when you sprint and jump, but that medallion isn't good because it gives you invisibility. That medallion's good because it gives you basically fall damage immunity. So, you know, I don't know how good this would actually be, considering invisibility does not have a very good track record in Fortnite, you know? But outside of it, I think this weapon would still be good because the Thunderburst is good. Granted, you wouldn't have the ability to mod this thing, but maybe it would come like pre-attached with some mods. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Could just be one of those weapons that's like got mods already attached and you can't take them off or anything. Kind of like the heavy impact, or the hollow twister, which I technically think is part of that because it has the hollow optic. But whatever. This weapon would probably be good in the same way that the Frostfire is good. Next, we have the unstable Flowberry Mist Grenade Launcher. This is an exotic version of the grenade launcher, and when you fire the unstable Flowberry Mist Grenade Launcher, instead of firing a grenade, it will fire a med mist smoke grenade that would heal the same way a Flowberry would, granting the low gravity effect. So this is probably the most changed out of all the weapons in this video. Obviously, instead of being an offensive weapon, this would be a healing item now, and I don't know how good this would be because no one really uses the med mist smoke grenades in the first place, but the Flowberry effect is definitely nice. Also, when I say that would heal the same way a Flowberry would, that means no white health. This would only heal shields, so you basically get 100 few shields out of this and the low gravity effect after you leave the smoke grenade and are in it still, I guess you could say. But, you know, I don't know how useful this would be. It's not really infinite heals because you still need rockets for it to work, so I don't know. This weapon's a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion. It's basically like holding like a bunch of like med mist smoke grenades in one slot, but they're shields and not white health, so you'd still need to carry white meds. So I don't know. I feel like this weapon would be situational. Like if you pick it up, you know, you might as well throw it on the ground because it's free shields, but you know, you're not like carrying this. You'd rather carry a Chug Jug or something like that, you know? So this weapon, not very insane in my opinion. The name's definitely a bit of a mouthful. The unstable Flowberry Mist Grenade Launcher. Like that's a bit of a mouthful right there, but you know, whatever. Who cares? You know, it's an interesting, fun idea that just probably wouldn't be that good in practice, you know? So who knows how good this would actually be. Next, we have the unstable accelerant SMG. This is an exotic version of the submachine gun. I know the comment says that's a Surgefire SMG that's supposed to be an exotic of, but I already made an exotic Surgefire SMG in my last unstable exotics video, so we're gonna do the normal SMG for this one. The longer you fire the unstable accelerant SMG, the faster its fire rate will become. It would also grant you the pepper effect upon being fired. So very similar to the Surgefire SMG actually, because the fire rate does increase with the Surgefire normally, and this would increase fire rate too, although it would have the normal SMG's damage, I believe, is a bit higher than the Surgefire, and it would also give you the pepper effect like the other two accelerant exotics. And you know, this would actually give us an accelerant exotic in all three of like the main like exotic categories that we have now, because we'd have the Heisted accelerant shotgun, the lawless accelerant hollow twister, and now the unstable accelerant SMG. You know, definitely a fun little thing this weapon would do. This weapon would probably be a bit broken, you know, having an SMG that just like starts off fast and then just keeps getting faster as you fire it, especially with a bit of a higher damage than, you know, other SMGs, considering I believe this SMG actually has one of the higher SMG damages in the game. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's true. I think this weapon would probably be really good. I don't think it would be like busted or like broken or overpowered, but it would definitely be like you find this, you're picking it up over every other SMG in the game, even the Veiled Precision, which is a bit crazy because the Veiled Precision is a very powerful SMG. But you know, I think this would definitely be a solid addition to the game. You know, please Fortnite, give us more exotics this season. I know you are adding the unstable Thunderclap DMR, which probably won't be that good because it's a Deadeye DMR exotic, so probably won't be that good. But you know, there's always time to add more. There's still like a month left in the season, something like that. I don't know, something like that. I think it would be fun if they added something like this. Next, we have the unstable Dice Roll Shotgun. This is an interesting one. This is an exotic version of the Ranger Shotgun, and when you hit a headshot with the unstable Dice Roll Shotgun, its damage output will be completely randomized with a minimum of 90 damage and a maximum of 250 damage. So basically, think about it like this. You shoot the shotgun, it's just got normal Ranger shotgun damage if you hit a body shot. However, if you hit a headshot, you have a chance of either doing basically no damage for a headshot, because 90 damage is less than what the Ranger Shotgun normally does to the body, or you have a chance of just ending your opponent right there. Completely done. Fight's over. No matter how many pellets you put. I did not put that in there, but even if you hit one pellet, it'll always choose a random amount of damage. Like, the damage is not pellet specific. It's just chooses a random number. So this weapon would definitely probably be overpowered, but it wouldn't be like an overpowered weapon that you want to carry, because it's just like a luck-based overpowered. Like, yeah, you carry this and it could like instantly kill your opponent, but then again, you could carry it and like not even crack their shield, like, you know. So I feel like this weapon would be definitely a high risk, high reward kind of weapon, considering that's kind of what the Ranger Shotgun is already, because, you know, it's got the one shot. So I think that just like takes like the Ranger's gimmick already and just like ticks it up a notch, you know what I'm saying? So I think this would be an interesting weapon. Next, we have the Unstable Disco Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Havoc Pump Shotgun, and when you hit an opponent with the Unstable Disco Shotgun, they have a small chance to be given the Boogie Bomb effect. Very simple gimmick here. Basically, you hit them, have a chance to be boogied, and then you basically get another free shot off of them. So this would definitely be like a solid weapon. I definitely think this is a exotic where the exotic effect would actually be a benefit instead of just being like a little gimmick that it has that doesn't really change how it works. Then again, I don't think we'd need another exotic pump shotgun in the loot pool right now, so, you know, maybe not. Maybe save this for a different exotic for another time. Who knows? Maybe in like, I don't know, chapter 7, season 3, they come out with like some new kind of exotic category and they're like, I want to make a boogie bomb shotgun. Take this idea, you know. Could be fun. But, you know, this is definitely a solid weapon. Probably be really good. I wouldn't imagine it having mythic half a pump shotgun damage. I would definitely imagine having legendary, so couldn't one-shot headshot, but that wouldn't really matter in this case because you hit them and they boogie bomb, so you basically get the free hit off anyway, so they're already going to be a bit lower. So, you know, could be fun. Could be fun. Next up, we have the Unstable Voltage Bow. This is an exotic version of the mechanical bow, or just bows in general, I guess you could say. And when fired, the Unstable Voltage Bow will create a small field of lightning that will damage players in a chain-like effect. So basically, it's a lightning cloud that when it damages someone, it damages all people near them. This would probably be good in squads, but in solos, probably not. Duos would be alright. Squads, though, is where this weapon would shine. So, you know, I think it would be pretty solid there. But outside of squads, this weapon probably wouldn't be too good. Because, you know, bows in general aren't too good unless their, like, secondary effect is good. Having a secondary effect that's only really useful in one game mode, you know, this weapon would probably be like a C tier at most, in my personal opinion. If I was ranking these and how useful it'd actually be in-game, this would probably be C tier at most. But, you know, it's fun. So why not? And finally, we have the Unstable Wind Shockwave Hammer. This is an exotic version of the Shockwave Hammer, and while holding the Unstable Wind Shockwave Hammer, you will be granted increased movement speed. This version of the Shockwave Hammer also has 5 charges, so just like the Mythic version. You know, this is basically just the Shockwave Hammer infused with the Wind Boon. So you hold this, faster movement speed. It's really not too much to it. It would just be good because it's a Shockwave Hammer, not because it has the wind effect. Although, probably wouldn't be mad to have it, since you're already holding it out for movement. You know, just having that extra bit of movement speed would not be bad. So, you know, good weapon. Makes it a little bit better, but not too crazy. I would definitely probably take this over the Mythic version, though, just for that little bit of extra movement. Alright, so first we have the Unstable Ultra Chrome Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Evo Chrome Burst Rifle, and while holding the Unstable Ultra Chrome Rifle, you will be granted the Chrome Effect. The longer you fire the Unstable Ultra Chrome Rifle, the faster its fire rate becomes. So this weapon is kind of similar to like the Slap Twin-Fire Auto Shotgun and the High State Running Gun SMG, where it gives you a permanent status effect while you're holding it that helps with movement. The Chrome Effect being that status effect. Now, the Chrome Effect itself, you know, while the movement part is good, you know, the phasing through build stuff is kind of iffy. Like, on paper, phasing through builds is a pretty good effect, but the animation is, like, really long for it, so I don't know how good that would be. However, I think the movement would definitely be nice. And the fire rate becoming faster the longer you shoot it definitely helps this weapon. The original Evo Chrome Burst Rifle is just an okay AR. It's nothing crazy. Not particularly a big fan of it, but, you know, maybe this fire rate buff would help it. I know in those higher rarities, it definitely gets a lot better. Like in the lower rarities, it's not very good at all, but the higher rarities of the Chrome Rifle, pretty solid. So, you know, maybe these extra buffs to it would make it like an actual top tier contender for an assault rifle, you know? So, I think this assault rifle would be pretty solid, you know? And why not give an exotic to a weapon that, let's be real, like no one remembers anymore at this point, you know? So I think that would be cool. Next, we have the Unstable Siphon Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Combat Shotgun, and when you deal damage with this Unstable Siphon Shotgun, you will heal for as much damage as the shot you just hit dealt. This weapon would heal both health and shield. So, basically, think about it like this. Combat shotgun typically does like around 80-90 damage per shot. So let's say you shoot someone, you hit them for 80 damage, for example. You will then heal for 80 health because you hit them for 80 damage, right? Pretty simple here. Definitely would be a good weapon. I just don't know if people would prefer to use this, although maybe they would actually really like to use a combat shotgun in the current shotgun meta, because honestly the combat's probably better than both the Outlaw and the Twin Fire. Definitely not the Sentinel Pump. The Pump is the best in the loot pool right now, but the combat would definitely probably be the second best shotgun. So having an exotic version that also heals Siphon would probably make it like, yeah, you would probably drop the Sentinel Pump for it, or it would at least be a viable choice to drop the Sentinel Pump for it, you know? So I think this would be a solid weapon. Yeah, just overall solid weapon. Literally no downsides to this one at all. You know? Next, we have the unstable Dualbolt SMGs. These are an exotic version of the dual micro SMGs, and the first and last bullets shot in the mag of the unstable Dualbolt SMGs would explode like an EMP grenade, kind of similar to the Hyperburst pistol exotic, where it has a shockwave effect on those shots. This SMG also has a slightly faster fire rate than its normal counterpart, so you'd also be able to get those off faster than you normally would with the original version of the dual micro SMGs. Now, these weapons, you know, the dual micro SMGs were just kind of alright when they were added in Chapter 5, Season 4. So, you know, I don't know how good they would actually be with this exotic with the EMP effect, because that would just be like mainly for vehicles. Although I could see it being like a very good like vehicle kind of weapon. Probably really good in zero build, honestly. Just stop them from fleeing a fight. So, you know, that would be pretty good, in my opinion. However, I just don't see them being that useful in builds, specifically, you know, because they're just an RA SMG, like, they're nothing crazy. Chapter 5, they were not even the best in the loot pool, and they were not even going against, like, the Thunderburst. Like, the Thunderburst was not even in the game when the dual micro SMGs were in, so being the worst SMG in the loot pool at a time like that is kind of crazy. So these weapons probably wouldn't be too good, in my opinion, but I think the EMP effect would definitely have its uses, so not entirely useless. And maybe if you're in zero build, you would pick this up, but in build mode, you probably are not taking this. You probably just take a Veiled Precision SMG over this, you know? Also, they would probably be hit scan if they were added today, because, you know, dual micro SMGs were in Chapter 5, so they have bullet drop, but these would be in Chapter 6 and everything's hit scan, except for like DMRs and snipers and stuff, so they'd probably be hit scan, but I still think that would save them from being kind of mediocre, in my opinion. Next, we have the unstable Floral repeater rifle. This is an exotic version of the explosive repeater rifle, and when this weapon explodes, it has a chance to create a big bush, similar to the big bush grenade. If you stand in this bush, you will begin to regenerate white health. So this weapon, you know, it's an exotic explosive repeater rifle, so obviously it's going to be as good as the repeater rifle. The bush effect really didn't really change how I felt about this weapon that much, although it being a sniper, it probably would be a little bit worse because you're creating like cover for your opponent with the bush, but then again, it's an explosive, so that doesn't really matter. But I also thought, you know, it should probably have another effect, because just creating a bush is not going to really do anything for you, like at all. So, you know, making the bush heal you like that one augment from Chapter 4 that healed you when you were in a bush, I think would be a good idea. Also, only white health, so you wouldn't get shields from this at all. I think this would be a solid exotic weapon, but, you know, I don't think its exotic effect would be too crazy. Like, it's kind of like the Frostfire shotgun, where it's like, it's a good weapon because the original weapon was already a good weapon, not because the exotic effect enhanced it in any way. You know what I'm saying? So definitely a solid exotic, but I don't think the exotic effect would really help this weapon too much. Next, we have the unstable Rift sniper rifle. This is an exotic version of the Reaper sniper rifle. I know a lot of people would be excited to see this weapon back, and when you hit an opponent with the unstable Rift sniper rifle, you'll be teleported to their location. So basically, think about it like this. You shoot a bullet, you hit your opponent, 100 for the body, you get teleported right in their face, take out your shotgun, bam, they're dead, they can't do anything about it. Or in another situation, you shoot your sniper, headshot them, they're dead, you're teleported to their body, and you don't have to run across the map to get their loot, because obviously a sniper being long ranged, you know, it would have that effect. I think this would actually be like a really solid weapon. It would also, I think, help with like third party situations. So, like, let's say you're shooting someone and then like you are getting third party. Well, that shot hits, then you're out of that situation immediately, so you don't have to deal with that third party anymore. You know, so I think this weapon would be pretty good, especially for like cleaning up fights. You know, I think definitely a very solid weapon. I definitely think this would be a cool exotic to see in the loot pool. And obviously just having the Reaper sniper rifle back would make a lot of people happy, because I know like the Reaper sniper rifle is like the fan favorite sniper, even though I don't think it's even close like the best sniper. I think there are like a few better snipers in it, but that's just my opinion, okay? Don't gotta yell all up in arms over that. Next, we have the unstable Lockon AR. This is an exotic version of the Enforcer AR, and when firing the unstable Lockon AR, your bullets have a chance to lock onto your target. These bullets, however, do less damage than normal. So basically look at it this way. It's basically just a normal Enforcer AR, slow fire rate, but like the strong damage, and it would also be hit scan. I want to make that very clear. This would be a hit scan weapon because it's chapter 6, not chapter 5 anymore, so this would be a hit scan weapon. So, good damage, right? But now you have a chance of basically getting aimbot. So a shot that you might have missed originally now just hits them. However, to make up for this, aimbot basically giving you free shots on your opponent, you would deal less damage. So let's say, for example, I believe like the Enforcer does like 40-ish damage originally, something like that. Right? So let's say you do 40-ish damage with a normal shot. A lock-on shot would only do about like 30 damage. So still decent damage, but definitely less, and you definitely would prefer to have that 40 damage. However, you might have missed that shot and would have hit 0. So now you hit 30 when you would have hit 0. So definitely, I think a solid AR. I don't know how effective it would be because, we have lock-on weapons in the game like this already. Granted, they don't have this exact effect, but the lock-on weapon, or just weapon, because it's just a pistol, I believe, is not too good. People don't really use it that much. So I don't know. This would have to be added for us to see this actually have its effect be judged properly, but I don't think it would be too crazy. I don't think people would really pick this one up. Maybe they would actually pick it up because this would have like the same attachments as the ballistic version of the Enforcer, and that has some pretty good attachments on it. So maybe they would pick it up. Who knows? Who really knows? Next, we have the unstable Vampiric Burst SMG. This is obviously an exotic version of the Burst SMG, and when you hit a shot with the unstable Vampiric Burst SMG, you will be healed for 5 effective shield or health. Health or shield, I don't know, I swapped those. So, obviously, very simple concept of an exotic here. You hit a shot, you heal a little bit. It's basically just like a better version of the Deadpool dual pistols from chapter 2. So, I don't know if people would really carry this per se, because especially if this was added alongside the Siphon shotgun that we talked about earlier in the video, you would already have a Siphon weapon. However, this would still probably be a decent weapon. Burst SMG is not known for being the best SMG, but I think it's a little bit underrated, and I think it's better than what people say it is. So, I think give this thing a chance. Maybe you would see some play, but I don't know if it would be a top tier SMG. I think people would definitely still take a Veiled Precision over it, I just don't think this would be too crazy. Maybe if it was on a better SMG, though, I'd see it happening, but, who knows? Who really knows? Next, we have the Unstable Toxic Assault Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Combat Assault Rifle, and when you hit an opponent with the Unstable Toxic Assault Rifle, your opponent will take poison damage for a few seconds. So basically, you shoot at your opponent, you hit them with a toxic bullet, basically, and they would begin taking tick damage for a few seconds. Kind of similar to the poison dart trap, although I don't think they would take 10 damage because that's a bit insane. As you just spraying down your opponent, and they are also taking 10 tick damage for like a few seconds, so like 30 extra damage on top of that. One bullet would do like 60 damage with that, considering how fast this fire rate is. That would be insane. Like, you'd basically guarantee to kill your opponent. So probably not that much, but maybe like 2 or 3 tick damage, probably, at max. So, it wouldn't be too broken. So just add a few more damage to that, maybe increase it by like 12 maybe total after all the poison damage is done. So yeah, definitely think this would be a solid assault rifle given the combat's already pretty good. So, would be a good, fun exotic in my opinion. I think they should definitely consider adding something like this. Alright, next we have the Unstable Swiftfire Auto Shotgun. This is an exotic version of the Auto Shotgun, and I know that the comment originally says Twinfire Auto Shotgun, but I already made one of those in the first Unstable exotic video I made, so I switched this to the normal Auto Shotgun. But while moving with the Unstable Swiftfire Auto Shotgun, this weapon will have an increased fire rate and do slightly more damage. So, very simple here. When you're not moving, it's firing just like a normal auto shotgun would, fast shotgun, but nothing crazy. However, when you're moving with this thing, I think this thing would fire more closely to a frenzy auto. It could go boom, 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 instead of boom, 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 kind of that kind of speed. And obviously this slightly more increased damage would be cool to have too. Just adds a little bit of spice to this weapon. I think this weapon would actually be surprisingly good considering you're moving most of the time while you're in a fight, so especially with the shotgun. So you basically have that damage and fire rate buff at all times. So I think this would definitely be a solid weapon. I just don't know if people would like to take this over Sentinel Pump. Like, I think it would definitely be contender for the best shotgun in the game, but I don't know. Maybe people will still see the Sentinel Pump as a better option. Sentinel Pump is pretty good, but I do think it's a little bit overrated. I just think people will see it as better because everything else around it is way worse. So, I think this would be a contender for the best shotgun in the game, but what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Do you think this would be a contender with the Sentinel Pump? Because I think it would be. And finally, our last exotic of the video, we have the unstable Frostbite sniper rifle. This is an exotic version of the heavy sniper rifle, and the unstable Frostbite sniper rifle will fire an icicle that deals 100 damage on impact. When hit with the unstable Frostbite sniper rifle, your opponent will take tick damage for a few seconds and gain the icy feet effect for a few seconds. So basically, kind of similar to the toxic assault rifle, but it also gives the icy feet effect. Now, I do think the tick damage on this will be slightly higher than the toxic assault rifle. I think this will probably be closer to 10 because it is a sniper. So you have that 100 damage and then maybe like 5 seconds of 10 tick damage. Add another 50 to that, get 150 body shot damage. And then obviously you'd probably headshot snipe someone with this and instantly kill them. So the effect wouldn't really matter, but body shot, you basically disorient your opponent and get them really low. So it'd be basically an easy kill from there on out. I think this would be a solid weapon. You know, I think the exotic effect actually would help this weapon a lot because it also pressures your opponent. Like, they're constantly taking damage. Like, you say, for example, you shoot them, you hit them, and then you immediately push them right after that. They're taking tick damage, they have slippery ice feet, and now you're pushing them, and now they are panicking, and they are disoriented, and you basically get a free kill, you know? I think this would definitely help the weapon a lot. You know, the heavy sniper is already a decent weapon, although after it's been nerfed, I won't even say it's in the top half of sniper rifles, if I'm gonna be honest. Just like, yeah, it does higher body shot damage than most snipers, but it's like not enough to warrant like the very long reload speed. So, you know, if we were talking like prime heavy sniper, top tier sniper, but nowadays, you know, it's just all right. So I think this effect would definitely help it. You know, definitely think it would be pretty good. Alright, first we have the unstable gravity clinger. This is obviously an exotic version of the normal clinger, and when thrown, the unstable gravity clinger will pull all nearby players towards it before exploding. So basically, you can kind of think about it like this. Kind of think about it like the Yoink shotgun's exotic ability, but basically on steroids. Basically, when you throw this at someone, anyone in that area will be pulled towards the clinger. So that means, one, you don't even have to hit the person with the clinger in order for it to deal damage to them. You could throw it in the ground in the vicinity of a bunch of players. It'll pull all those players in that area towards it and it'll explode. And then if you attach it to someone, like you land the clinger on someone, it'll pull all players in their area towards that player and then continue to explode. So basically, this is just a more effective version of the clinger. So, you know, I think it would be a solid exotic. However, given how the bounce grenade is obtained, where you only get one from the Overlord Spire, I don't know how like accessible this weapon would be and how useful it actually be, because yeah, sure, it's a really good exotic, but if you're only getting it once, you're probably not going to be saving a spot for it, because it's like, oh, only one time use. So you're probably not going to want to bother with it. Maybe if they got a way to make it more accessible, you know, maybe like have like an expertise like NPC sell it, like something like that, maybe it would be better. But you know, I feel like not a lot of people would carry this just because you wouldn't be able to get a lot of them easily, you know? So who knows? I think it would be good, but I don't know how accessible it would be. Next, we have the unstable Taco Time boombox. This is an exotic version of the boombox, obviously, and all players within the area of the unstable Taco Time boombox will begin doing the Taco Time dance for the duration of the boombox. Basically, you throw this down, you know, a boombox will do its thing, it'll destroy all the nearby builds, and then anyone who's in that area where it's like destroying all the builds, Taco Time dance. So basically, they're stuck in a boogie bomb for that duration, essentially, right? Now, this also includes you, so if you are in the vicinity of the boombox, you would also start dancing, so you'd basically make yourself vulnerable. However, if you're outside the range of the boombox, you obviously would not get affected by it, and you can shoot anyone in that range freely without having to worry about them, you know, defending themselves. So you basically just make them defenseless. So basically, this item pairs really well with any weapon that's not a shotgun, or an SMG, I guess, because that's kind of close range too. So basically, AR, you win the fight, essentially. You know, your opponent can't really do anything about it, especially given the breaking builds part. Wouldn't be able to build like anything to defend themselves. You can even in zero build, throw this, no porta bunker. The only thing that I think could really save them is a shield bubble, but I don't think those are in build mode, so, you know, can't really do anything about that. This would probably be a solid exotic, but once again, I don't know how useful it would be, considering, you know, you'd only get one, you know, from the Spire. Again, they'd probably have to make it sold by an NPC in order for it to be better, but who knows? Who really knows? I think this would be a solid exotic, but I don't know if it would be like a top tier one, like one that people would carry. Although I think it would be very interesting, you know, used in a fight. Could pick you up a free kill. Who knows? Who really knows? Next, we have the unstable booming base boost. This is obviously an exotic version of the base boost, and when you land on the ground after using the unstable booming base boost, bit of a tongue twister there, you will create a small explosion in the area in which you landed. So this is basically just a normal base boost. However, you know, landing creates a small explosion. So let's say you're pushing someone and you use this to get over there. Well, now you're pushing them and now you land like on their box or whatever, because they built a box. You land on that box, you blow up, destroy their box, and now you are in their face and you can just shotgun them and win the fight. This weapon would probably be fairly effective, and obviously it would be a base boost, so it would be a solid movement item too. I'd imagine it would have the same amount of uses as the mythic version because there is no legendary version, and that's what the exotics normally pull off of. So this would have 4 uses like the mythic. So I think this would be a very, very good item, but I don't know how useful the explosion effect would be, considering it's more of a movement item and less of a weapon made for combat. You know, very few use cases I could see this happening or being useful in. However, those use cases do exist, and I think it would be good, and obviously it's the equivalent of a mythic base boost, so you're gonna take it, you know? Next, we have the unstable Storm Visor. This is an exotic version of the tracking visor, and when you mark someone with the unstable Storm Visor, they will begin taking storm damage for a few seconds, equivalent to the current storm tick damage. So basically, early on in the game, this wouldn't be too useful. Like, sure, you're getting a little bit of chip damage on them, but it's like gonna end up being like 5 total damage, right? However, later in the game, where this is gonna be more useful because it's gonna be easier to mark players because it's gonna be closer to you, and the storm's gonna be ticking for more damage, this weapon, or I should say item, because it's more of an item, would be really useful because 1, you'll know your opponent's location, and 2, you'll be entering the fight with them already weakened, no matter if they were at full health when you marked them in the first place. So that's a really solid item. And it's basically just a tracking visor, but better in literally every way, because yes, the tracking visor is already good, but you know, just knowing their location isn't going to win you the fight. You need to actually know how to fight them. But having your opponent enter the fight weaker than you basically raises your chances at winning the fight a whole lot. So I think this weapon, or item I should say, would be really, really solid, you know? Tracking visor, as I said, it's already very, very powerful, so having a version that does damage to your opponent is going to be good. You know, it's gonna be really good. Alright, now we have the unstable Transform Slurp Juice. Obviously an exotic version of the Slurp Juice, and when you use the unstable Transform Slurp Juice, you'll be granted a random disguise for the duration you're being healed for. Those disguises can either be invisibility, a bush, a cardboard box, or a henchman disguise. Now this one's a little bit of a little goofy kind of item. You know, the disguises aren't that useful. Like the bush could be useful because you could tank a hit with the bush. The cardboard box probably not going to do you much, and the henchman disguise literally does nothing for you because it's just like a visual change. However, you could use it to like hide with like one of the henchmen like around the map, you know. Maybe if you're fighting like the Spire and like someone wants to come push it, you know, they're not going to be focusing on you, they're going to be focusing on the Spire, so you could like probably catch them off guard. Right. And the invisibility, you know, invisibility is not typically good. However, we do have the invisibility medallion in the game right now, which is pretty solid, but it's not because it has invisibility, you know? It's because of the other stuff it gives you, right? So I don't think the effects on this item would be too useful, you know? But I do think it just being Slurp Juice would be pretty good. And obviously this would pull off the legendary version of the Slurp Juice because it is an exotic, and those typically pull off the legendary versions of the items they're based off, right? So I think this would be a solid weapon, you know? And yeah, nothing too much else to say about this item. It would basically be a solid version of the Slurp Juice where you only like one effect that would really like harm you, for I should say, because the cardboard box really ain't doing nothing for you, right? It just makes you restricted to not do anything once you get out of the box, so not too useful. However, the other effects are whatever. Next, we have the Unstable Soak Surf Cube. This is an exotic version of the Surf Cube, and when you traverse over water while using the Unstable Soak Surf Cube, you will begin to heal your health and shield. Very simple effect here. Use this in the water, and you'll heal a little bit. Obviously, you can't go in the water with this, but you know, like when you're surfing over the water, you'll get the health and shield regen. I would imagine it would be fairly quick, so you could actually warrant it being an exotic, you know? And also, maybe it would have extra uses, because the current Surf Cube has 115. I believe the Mythic version, which I am not sure how you get. I know it exists, but I don't know how you get the Mythic version. I believe that has 300 uses. Either that or 200. I don't know which one. But maybe we could throw in like 300 uses on this, so you have double than the normal Surf Cube, right? So I think this would be a solid item. However, the unstable, like, exotic effect wouldn't be the reason that the item's good. But, you know, it's just a nice little benefit. Let's say you just got out of a fight, you know, and you want to rotate. You go in the water, you could heal up all that health and shield that you lost in the fight, and then you're basically safe for your next fight. So, could be good, but the effect isn't really the reason that it's good, you know? Because the Surf Cube's already a good item. So, that's why I think it would be good, not because of the effect. Next, we have the Unstable Mystery Splash. This is obviously an exotic version of the Chug Splash, and when you use the Unstable Mystery Splash, you will be granted a random effect. This effect can either be the Slap effect, the Gold Rush effect, or the Spicy Pepper effect. So basically, we just take all the previous Chug Splash variations that we've had in the past, and just throw those effects into the little effect loot pool, I guess you could say, that you get when you use a splash. Obviously, this would be solid because you could just carry this splash. You get the 20 health as a normal Chug Splash would give, but you also get a, you know, beneficial movement effect. So I think this would be a solid item. You know, I feel like if you find this on the ground, or like fighting the boss, I should say, because you're not finding this on the ground. It's an exotic. You wouldn't find it on the ground. Fighting the boss, you would definitely take this as your heal. I'm pretty sure Chug Splashes are in the game right now. I actually don't remember if they are, but I'm pretty sure they are. So, you know, easy swap in for Chug Splashes there if they are in the game, if I can remember correctly. But yeah, solid item here, you could say. So yeah, pretty good. Next, we have the unstable Spire drop. This is an exotic version of the Dollar drop, and when you call in a supply drop with the unstable Spire drop, that supply drop will contain 3 random unstable exotics. So basically, you just get 3 free exotics with this one. You know, it's very simple exotic here. Obviously, out of the ones in the game right now, if this was added and we only have the other existing exotics, you know, you're probably not taking at least one of them, because, you know, we have 2 shotguns and stuff. However, if we just look at this in the context of adding the rest of the unstable exotics I've added into this series so far, this would be pretty good. You'd probably get a whole loadout of like unstable exotics once you get unlucky and like pull like 3 shotguns or something, but you probably won't do that, right? Although, you know, throw this in the game right now with the current exotics we have, probably wouldn't be too amazing. Like, sure, you get 3 exotics, but you're probably only taking like 1 or 2 of them. It depends on the context you're looking at this in, but looking at this and the current state of the game, you know, probably wouldn't be too useful. However, I think it would still be fun, you know? Basically gives you 3 exotics for the price of 1. I think that's cool. I think it's fun. Next, we have the unstable banana of the Spire. This is an exotic version of the banana of the gods, and when you use the unstable banana of the Spire, you'll heal for 50 health instead of 30 like the normal banana of the gods, and become invisible for a short period of time, have increased reload speed, and will create a small explosion when taking damage. So effectively, the invisibility and the reload speed is like 2 of the effects from the current medallions in the loot pool, so just kind of have like that kind of effect on this banana. Sort of like how the original Banana of the Gods gives you the agility effect from the Zeus medallion. So I think that little mirror like parallel works well here. And the small explosion is just a little thing to like buff it up a little bit, so it's not just like another variant of the Banana of the Gods. It's something a little bit more different, a little bit more useful, you know? Basically makes getting in your opponent's face really valuable, because they basically have to one-shot you if you don't want to die. So I think this exotic would be pretty useful in my personal opinion, and yeah, I think it would be pretty good. And finally, we have the unstable Rush Jug. This is an exotic version of the Chug Jug, and when using the unstable Rush Jug, you'll be granted the Goldish effect. Very simple effect here, and this would have 400 uses, just like the Lawless Slap Jug. So basically it's 2 Chug Jugs in one, which would make it really good, right? Because the Chug Jug in its current form is like the top tier healing item. Like, you always want to carry a Chug Jug at all times, and the Slap Jug, if you have that, you are set for the game. You basically don't have to worry about carrying any other healing items. So basically just having that, again, would make it really good. The Goldish effect obviously is a benefit, but you're not going to take it for the Goldish effect. Like, yes, it'll be nice to have the Goldish effect, but here you don't really care about that one taking it. You care about having basically 2 Chug Jugs in one slot, right? So obviously I think this would be a pretty solid exotic, probably a top tier healing item, and yeah, that's about it. Alright, so first we have the unstable loaded sniper rifle. This is an exotic version of the bolt action sniper rifle, and whenever you hit an opponent with the unstable loaded sniper rifle, the weapon will instantly reload. So kind of think about it like this. You shoot your shot, you hit them, and instead of having to reload and wait for your another shot to go off, you hit them, your gun instantly reloads, and you can just say scope turn on them and hit them again, for example. And then it just makes the gun way more efficient of a sniper rifle. Just being able to get shots off quicker, essentially, you know? This would probably be a pretty solid sniper, all things considered. I don't think it would be like the best sniper ever, because it would still have a little bit of a delay in between shots, because obviously as a sniper it's not going to have a fast fire rate, and it's a bolt action, so it's obviously not going to be fast. But, you know, I could see this thing be comparable to like the Reaper, for example, or the Hunter Bolt, you know, where it's a sniper where you don't have to worry, where you don't have to worry about reloading it every time you shoot it. I don't think it would be as good as the semi-auto is, which is kind of a crazy thing to say. I feel like a lot of people still don't think the semi-auto is that great, but in OG, like the OG season, it was pretty good. Like the last time it was in the game, where it would like 200 to the head, you know? I don't think it would be as good as that semi-auto sniper, but I think it would probably be like a top 5 sniper if it was added to the game, you know? I think it would be pretty good. Next, we have the unstable Nitro pistol. This is an exotic version of the tactical pistol, and the unstable Nitro pistol will give you infinite Nitro while holding the weapon. Very simple effect here, but I think this would be a pretty solid weapon. Obviously, the tactical pistol is already a pretty good weapon, so just adding an effect where you basically have infinite stamina and you can just damage opponents while running into them, I feel like is great. A great effect. In Blitz, if you get like the Nitro medallion, you are ecstatic, because that medallion is great. That medallion is amazing. So just having a weapon that just gives you that effect infinitely while you're holding it, great weapon, you know? There are other weapons that kind of do this already with like slap and stuff, like the Running Gun SMG and the slap shotgun. However, the Nitro effect is just way better. Granted, it is on a pistol, so even though the tac pistol is really good, it's not an AR or an SMG, so that is a little bit of a downside. But I think it gets away with it just because, you know, the pistol itself is a really solid pistol and the effect is really good. So I think this weapon would be very solid. Next, we have the exotic Spicy Feet, and this is an exotic version of the Icy Feet. The unstable Spicy Feet act just like the normal Icy Feet. However, they grant the user the Spicy Pepper effect and Glider redeploy. They also last longer. So this would probably be a decent movement item if it were added to the game today. I don't think it would be too crazy because it's still Icy Feet, and the Icy Feet effect is kind of like very situational, a mobility item. So I don't know if it would be too crazy. I definitely think, having the additional speed boost and glider redeploy definitely helps. But then again, I just don't see this being too crazy, especially when we have like base boost in the game, or the wing shot grappler. Like those two items just outclass this in every way, So I think this would be a situational kind of exotic, and you probably wouldn't want to get this from the Spire, but it could be a little fun exotic, just be something cool. Maybe this could be like a cool Christmas exotic, If this season was happening during Christmas, that would be cool. That could be a good idea, actually. Christmas exotic right here, Could always use a few more Christmas exotics because we only have 2, so could be fun. Next, we have the unstable Storm Splash. This is an exotic version of the Slap Splash, and the unstable Storm Splash will heal for 20 health or shield. Will also grant storm immunity for a short period of time. This storm immunity gets shorter the longer the game goes on. So, kind of think about this item like this. It heals like a normal Chug Splash would, which I know it's not a Chug Splash, but it'll heal 20 because it's an exotic. It should heal for a bigger amount, right? And you get the 20 health or shield, the storm immunity, so basically you can stay in the storm longer, basically. You won't be taking damage in the storm while this effect is active. And so it'd be really good for if you're deep in the storm and you have to rotate, pop this, you're good. And the immunity does get shorter the longer the game goes on. So basically, circle 10, you're not going to be getting 10 seconds of storm immunity while everyone else is dying in the storm. So you're basically just immune for that long. No, you'd get maybe a second and then you'd start taking damage again. So it wouldn't be that good to heal off, So I think that definitely bounces this item. But I think this would be a very solid exotic, just having the ability to not have to worry about, storm or as much, especially in the early game. It can definitely encourage you to go on the outer skirts of the map, If, a Spire's on the outside of the map and you get this, you're going to be fine because you have this item. You won't be able to take a lot of storm damage. And I just think it would be very solid. I think it would be a solid exotic. Next, we have the unstable Rush Drum Gun. This is an exotic version of the drum gun, and when you are holding the unstable Rush Drum Gun, you'll be granted the Gold Rush effect infinitely. Again, a very simple exotic here, and thematically it does make sense because this is an exotic drum gun, which is typically paired with Midas, who is the gold guy, So, makes sense. Also, I want to mention that this would have the same attachments as the Gilded Eye drum gun, so very good. Very good attachments there, I think this would be a really good item. The Gilded Eye drum gun's already good, and this would just give you better mobility while holding it, So I think this would be a very solid exotic, and I think if you got this from the Spire, you would be happy. You would be very happy with this, There isn't many things better than the Gilded Eye drum gun, in Chapter 6 at least. So I think this would be a very solid exotic, and I think it'd be fun, just running across the map with this thing. Very good, It's not as broken as the Nitro pistol because while the Nitro effect I would say is better than Gold Rush, the pistol is definitely worse than the drum gun. At least this version of the drum gun. The attack pistol is definitely better than some other versions of the drum gun, like the current drum gun, is not very good. I'd probably take attack pistol over that, but the Gilded Eye drum gun, definitely taking it over attack pistol any day. So I think it kind of balances out, I think it's fun. Next, we have the unstable Splash Cannon. This is an exotic version of the Bandage Bazooka or the Chug Cannon, whatever. They're the same thing, just different rarities, you know what I'm saying? But when you fire the unstable Splash Cannon, it will fire a random splash item between the Chug Splash, Slap Splash, Chili Chug Splash, and Nitro Splash. I know the Nitro Splash isn't really a splash item in the same sense that the other 3 are, it's not like a drink or anything, but it's it's still a splash technically, so I thought I'd throw it in here. Or, well, I was in the comment. You know what I'm saying. It fits well enough. So this would probably be a very solid item. If this was added, it would probably have durability, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to say it doesn't have durability because this is my video, so I could say whatever I want about it. The unstable Splash Cannon would probably be really good because, Chug Splash, you're just healing, but it's a good effect anyway, so it's nothing crazy, but you're still getting a good effect. The Slap Splash obviously gives you slap and is still a good effect. The Chili Chug Splash, same as the Chug Splash, just gives you the pepper effect, so you go faster. And the Nitro Splash is basically the best of everything, So I think this would be a solid item. You'd obviously probably want to get the Nitro Splash, but the other 3 effects aren't bad. So having this just constantly heal you, give you special good effects, very good. If you got this, you'd be set for the whole game. It would take up 2 slots, but I think that's a worthy trade-off. In my personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? I think it would be a very solid exotic. Next, we have the unstable Blitz shotgun. This is an exotic version of the drum shotgun, and when you reload the unstable Blitz shotgun, you'll get either the pepper effect, the slap effect, or the nitro effect for a short period of time. Obviously, it would be very beneficial, kind of like the blink exotics where they give you the 0-point dash, but this time with 3 different other effects. Definitely be very good exotic because, you know, the drum shotgun is already a very powerful weapon, and, you know, having the exotic effects I don't think makes or breaks the weapon. I think the exotic effects are just kind of like a bonus, kind of like the Frostfire shotgun, because the Frostfire shotgun doesn't really benefit from its exotic effect, but it also doesn't hurt it either. It's just kind of there. I think the same thing would happen for this too. You know, the effect is definitely nice to have, like these effects are good, don't get me wrong, but it's a drum shotgun. You're taking it because it's a drum shotgun, and it's gonna probably win you a fight. So I think it would be a very good exotic. I don't know how many people would really take this over the Sentinel Pump because people like the Sentinel Pump better. But if you're like not as good, let's just say, you'd probably take this over that. You know, just better than the Twinfire in every way. Better for non-skilled players over the Sentinel Pump because, you know, drum shotgun is basically made for non-skilled players. So having this weapon definitely be good. Just the only caveat being that you'd have to go to defeat the Spire or buy it off of someone. Probably. So there is that, but I think this would be a very solid exotic. Next, we have the Unstable Void Assault Rifle. This is an exotic version of the normal assault rifle, and the last shot in the mag of the Unstable Void Assault Rifle would teleport you like the Void Oni mask. I do want to mention that the comment originally said the Fury AR, but I already made an exotic Fury AR in the first video in the Unstable Exotic series, so I changed it to the normal assault rifle. You know, please don't get mad at me. But yeah, this would probably be really good because let's say you're shooting at someone, you empty the clip, and then you teleport right on their face, pump out, shoot them, they're dead, you win the fight. Easy. Very, very solid exotic in my opinion. I think it would be very good, although I could see the effect getting a little bit annoying. You know, for example, let's say you're like shooting an AI or something, and you don't really want to go over there. Maybe it's like at a bad spot, right? You're shooting the AI, but you don't want to go over there, so you empty the clip on the AI, and then you teleport to where they are, and now you're in a bad position. You know, could be bad, but that's very situational. I think most of the times this effect would be beneficial for the user. So I think it would be very good. I think it would be a very, very solid exotic, you know. And if this was in the game, I think it would overall be a fun weapon. I don't think many people would complain about it. I think it would be good, you know. It would be very, very solid. All right. Next, we have the Unstable Charge Sniper Rifle. This is an exotic version of the semi-auto sniper rifle, and when you go to fire the Unstable Charge Sniper Rifle, you'll have to charge the weapon. You'll have to charge the shot. The longer you charge the weapon, the more damage it will do. The more damage the charge will do. The more damage the shot will do. So basically, charge shotgun, but a sniper rifle. So, obviously being a semi-auto sniper rifle, it has 10 shots, so you can kind of get away with firing this fast, although you won't be able to automatically fire it because you have to charge the shots. So, you hold down the trigger, it charges the shot instead of fires it off. So, some might see that as a detriment to the weapon, some might see it as like a benefit so you can line up the shots better. I think this would probably be worse than the OG semi-auto, or the current semi-auto, I guess I'd say. Whatever version of the semi-auto does, you know, 200 to the head, right? I think it would probably be worse, but that being said, these 200 damage headshot sniper, or semi-auto sniper, is like insanely busted, like insanely broken. Like, so, it being a little bit worse isn't really a detriment. It's kind of like the Zapatron now that I think about it. This is basically a Zapatron. You know, that's something. You know, Zapatron's good. It's probably would be a little bit of a nerfed version of the Zapatron if I'm being honest, but it would still be good. You know, I still think it would be good. I just don't think it would be anything crazy. It would be an alright weapon. Alright, I believe this is the last weapon. Next, we have the Unstable Recon Grenade Launcher. This is an exotic proximity grenade launcher, and when the Unstable Recon Grenade Launcher explodes, it will mark all nearby enemies and chests. Basically, this is just a version of the Recon Scanner with like an offensive part to it. The Recon Scanner is already a very good it's not exotic, I don't know why I said exotic. The Recon Scanner is already a very good item, you know, utility item, but it doesn't have any offensive capabilities, although it technically does. You know, the little grenade that it shoots does 5 damage if it directly hits someone, but you're never directly hitting someone with a Recon Scanner, right? So, it has no offensive capabilities. But the Recon Scanner is a very good utility item for just revealing where people are in a nearby area. And I think having an item that does that also like does damage to the players in that area, I think would be very, very solid. Proximity Grenade Launcher is a alright explosive item. I don't say it's the best, but I definitely don't think it's bad, you know? You don't even have to like shoot in the general area, it'll just explode as long as it's near a player. So I think that's very good. It could be very good in squads modes, I think, because, you know, the explosive effect obviously does splash damage, but if, you know, their team is not like in the direct like area of where their teammate is, then you can mark their teammate while also shooting at them, and you can learn where their teammates are, basically, right? So I think this exotic would be very, very good. That being said, I don't know if many people would want to take it for the proximity grenade launcher part more than they just want to take it for the Recon Scanner part. But, you know, that being said, the option's always there, you know. I think it would be very good, you know, and that's about it. Alright, Alright, first we have the Unstable Storm Flip Sniper Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Storm Scout Sniper Rifle, and when you hit an opponent with the Unstable Storm Flip Sniper Rifle, a mini Storm Flip will be created at your opponent's location. So this kind of just takes the theme of the original Storm Scout and just kind of drives it up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? The original Storm Scout tells you where the storm locations will be. This Storm Scout creates a storm, you know what I'm saying? This effect I don't think would be too game-changing, in my personal opinion. I feel like it would be kind of similar to the Lawless Stink Rifle from Chapter 6 Season 2, where it would not be good because of its exotic effect, but it would be good because of the base weapon, you know? The original Storm Scout is a solid weapon. Don't get me wrong, it's not anything crazy, but it's very solid, you know? The one-shot headshot with like the 6 shots in the clip, very good for a sniper. Although it doesn't do 100 to the body, still very good. So I think this would be one of those exotics where the exotic effect is just a little bonus, you know? Like if you see the exotic and you have the normal version, you're gonna take the exotic, but it's not a game changer if you don't have it, you know what I'm saying? Kind of similar to the Frostfire in that kind of way. Next up, we have the Unstable Overclocked 6-shooter. This is an exotic version of the 6-shooter. Obviously, it's kind of in the name. And the Unstable Overclocked 6-shooter has an increased magazine size. And every time you hit an opponent with this weapon, fire rate will significantly increase. So obviously you get the kind of idea this weapon's getting at, right? Just a 6-shooter with an insanely fast fire rate that you have to earn. This weapon I feel like would be a very skill heavy kind of weapon, considering you'd have to earn the exotic effect. But I think it would be an alright exotic, you know? I don't think it would be anything crazy because, you know, the 6-shooter is still a 6-shooter. It's still garbage. But if you could get this thing off the ground, I think you'd have a good time with this weapon. Again, nothing crazy, but I think that extra magazine size, you know, kind of removing the point of calling it a 6-shooter, but that's besides the point. It having that effect kind of, you know, reward skilled players. I think this would be a solid exotic, you know? It'd be fun. But I don't think it would be anything crazy. I think it would just be an alright exotic. You'd see it, maybe pick it up once or twice, be like, oh, fun, this is cool, then never talk about it again. Kind of like the Marksman 6-shooter, if you think about it. Sort of like that. Next, we have the Unstable Roulette Sniper Rifle. This is an exotic version of the Hunter Bolt Action Sniper Rifle, and the Unstable Roulette Sniper Rifle will cycle between a fire effect, an icy effect, or frost effect, I guess you'd say, and a poison effect on every shot. So basically, kind of think about it like the Frostfire, where first you get the fire effect, which could be sort of like maybe it lights builds on fire and like gives you like the pepper effect, you know? And then maybe the second shot in the clip gives the icy feat to your opponent if you hit them, or the frost effect where it slows them down, you know? Kind of like that idea, like what the Frostfire has. So right now it's kind of basically like a Frostfire sniper. The third shot adds a poison effect that you could get. Kind of like how the poison dart trap gives off a poison effect where it would take off 10 damage. I don't think it would be that much because this is a sniper, so you kind of have to balance it a little bit. So maybe like 5 damage every tick. You know, I think that'd be a little bit more balanced for a sniper because, you know, the poison dart trap is a trap, not a sniper where it's already dealing out good base damage. So I think that balances out the weapon a little bit, and I think this would be a solid exotic. You know, I don't think it would be anything crazy, but it definitely gives off something that they would do, considering they basically did this with the Frostfire, you know? So I think this would be a solid exotic, but I don't think it would be anything crazy. I feel like people would take it just because they want a sniper, not because the exotic effect is there. Kind of gives me like the same kind of vibe as the Frostfire. People take the Frostfire because it's a gold sentinel pump, not because of the exotic effect, you know what I'm saying? Most people couldn't care less about that effect. So I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot about the exotics in this video. The exotic effects are just like a little bonus, not really a defining feature of the weapon, you know? Next, we have the Unstable Gravity Rocket Launcher. This is obviously an exotic version of the rocket launcher, and while holding the Unstable Gravity Rocket Launcher, you will be given the low gravity effect indefinitely. After exploding, the Unstable Gravity Rocket Launcher will leave behind a cloud that would give anyone who walks in it a low gravity effect. So this seems like a pretty fun exotic. Again, nothing too crazy, but I just think it's fun. I do think it would be a little bit of a downgrade of the last exotic RPG we got, being the Shockwave launcher, or Shockwave rocket launcher, I should say. You know, that's just like a top 10 exotic of all time, maybe even top 5, I would say. But, you know, I still think this would be a fun weapon, you know? Kind of gives off kind of like if you've played Minecraft and you know the lingering potions, like that's kind of what the cloud that it leaves behind would kind of give. So let's say you explode someone, you go in, to get their loot because you killed them with the explosion. Now you have low gravity. Now you can like shockwave way farther after killing someone, so in case you get third partied, you know, you don't have to worry about it as much. So I definitely think this exotic would be pretty decent, especially in a meta where there isn't a lot of mobility. Like, definitely think this would be a solid exotic. Definitely think it would be pretty fun to have. And also just having low gravity at all times would be pretty good. You know, another thing about it, you don't need the, well, I guess you do, because you only have it while holding. If you couldn't tell, I'm very tired recording this video. It is like 12 in the morning, but that's besides the point. Good exotic idea. Next up, we have the unstable Slapatron. This is an exotic version of the Zapatron, and while holding the unstable Slapatron, you'll be granted the slap effect indefinitely. When you eliminate an opponent with the unstable Slapatron, you'll be granted a speed boost for a short period of time. So this is a very simple exotic, but I think this will be a very fun exotic to play around with. Obviously, the slap effect is very good, so just having an item that gives you it indefinitely is always a benefit. It's always a plus. You would always take it, you know, it's just good for mobility, right? And the bonus like speed boost you get on a kill would also be very nice, because then you could just immediately rush to their loot, given that this is a sniper, and it would just basically help you rush loot, you know, make sure that you can actually get it, you know, quickly, so you don't have to worry about like third parties or whatever. And also, if you do happen to use this very close range, you could also use this to get out of a third party situation. So I think this would be a very solid exotic. It's not the craziest exotic in the world, but you know, it's fun. And also having an exotic Zapatron is just a cool idea in and of itself, you know? So I think this would be very fun. Very, very fun. Next, we have the Unstable Collector Pistol. This is an exotic version of the sidearm pistol, and after reloading the Unstable Collector Pistol, you'll be granted an effect from a random medallion for a short period of time. So, kind of think about it like this. You shoot the clip, you reload, and now you get a random medallion effect. This would basically take from all the medallions we've had in the game, although I don't think I would really include like some of the collab medallions. I don't know if they really want to do that, or the Chapter 5 Season 1 medallions, considering we have the Machinist medallion that basically just does that effect, right? So basically just exclude the collab medallions and the Chapter 5 Season 1 medallions, and yeah, you get that for a short period of time. You know, I also think it would probably exclude, I believe it does say in the comment to exclude like any medallions you're currently holding, which to be fair wouldn't be most of them, because usually only like 2 or 3 in the game at all times in modern day, so only have like 2 or 3 that wouldn't be added to the loot pool. It's only if you do have them. If you don't have them, then you're good to go. You get all the effects you can get, and it's like a little random chance thing, right? So you know, it could be cool. Also, it has the ability to be updated in the future. You know, any new medallions they add can get added straight to this pistol. You know, reload, add. It's like a Chapter 6 or a Chapter 8 Season 3 medallion, if those are still around in Chapter 8. Who knows, maybe this game just like falls off a cliff somehow in like Chapter 7 somehow. Probably not, but you never know. You never know. Next, we have the Unstable Power Down Hand Cannon. This is an exotic version of specifically the Conductor's Hand Cannon from Chapter 5 Season 3, just because it would have the attachments that that hand cannon has, and when the bullet from the Unstable Power Down Hand Cannon lands on something, it will create an EMP explosion. Now, this is a very simple exotic effect. Shoot it, EMP. Easy. Very good for disabling vehicles, you know? I don't know how useful this would be against players. Maybe if it's like the shield breaker EMP, where the EMP does damage to only your opponent's shields, maybe it would be good. But doing 70 damage on a splash damage shot with a pistol would be kind of insane, so it would probably be a little bit weaker than that. So, you know, probably do like only like 30 damage maybe, considering this is a slow firing pistol and you're only getting splash damage. Obviously, if you get a direct hit, it would be way more than that. So you could probably crack someone's shield if you hit a direct hit with this pistol. That would probably be very good, right? But yeah, very simple exotic, and I think it would be pretty good. Again, I don't know if you would really be carrying this for the exotic effect, but who knows, maybe you will. Maybe if we have another very vehicle heavy season, you could always bring this into the game and just be like, here is your vehicle counter for the season. You know, that could always work. So I think that'd be cool. Next, we have the Unstable Twin Mag Shotgun. Every other reload done with the Unstable Twin Mag Shotgun will be drastically faster. This is obviously an exotic version of the Oni Shotgun, and very simple effect here. It's barely even an exotic effect, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like this weapon would be better as a new, like original weapon instead of a exotic version of an existing shotgun, especially the Oni Shotgun, since that's kind of an underwhelming shotgun in my personal opinion. But yeah, every other reload done with the Unstable Twin Mag Shotgun would be drastically faster. It's just very simple. You know, I definitely think that would be a buff, but it's nothing crazy. It's a very simple exotic weapon in my personal opinion. Alright, next we have the Unstable Band Hammer Assault Rifle. This is obviously an exotic version of the Hammer Assault Rifle. as you could tell by the pun in the name, and every shot you hit with the unstable bandhammer assault rifle has a small chance to disable the weapon your opponent is currently holding. So think about it like this. Your opponent starts spraying at you, and you start spraying at them back with this weapon. Now you hit a few shots, and you just happen to get lucky and their weapon gets disabled. They no longer can shoot you with that weapon for a short period of time. So you get a few more free shots while they have to force switch into a new weapon. And who knows, they might disable that weapon too. So you might just get really lucky and this weapon just basically cripples your opponent for the rest of the fight. And you are just in a great position and you win the fight like that. I feel like this weapon would be a very, very, very broken exotic, in my opinion. You know, the hammer is already a very good assault rifle, and just basically making it so your opponent can't fight back is a bit broken, in my personal opinion. And I think it'd be fun, but I don't see this lasting along the game, especially in competitive. This is a no-go in competitive whatsoever. And then finally, this should be the last weapon of the video. We have the Unstable Breacher Revolver. This is an exotic version of the Revolver, and every shot fired with the Unstable Breacher Revolver has a good chance to deal drastically increased structure damage. Now, I know the original comments said to do a Mammoth pistol, but one, I've already done an exotic Unstable Mammoth pistol in this series in a prior video, and two, the weapon description just kind of made it seem more revolver-ish, so I changed it to a revolver. Now, this probably would not be very good just because the breacher effect isn't guaranteed. You have to get lucky with it, unlike every other breacher kind of weapon where you have to just hit, the structure you're trying to break. So I don't think this would be actually a very good exotic. I think if you get lucky, you can definitely pack a punch with it, but if you get lucky, you can definitely pack a punch with it, but you have to get lucky, that's the problem. So I think, it probably wouldn't be that good. And again, the revolver in the first place is not a very good weapon, it's been outclassed, let's just say that, by a bunch of other weapons. So I don't think this would be a very good weapon. I don't think it would be very strong. I do think the breacher effect is good, but when you don't get it every time, it's definitely not as strong. So that's just my opinion on it. You know what I'm saying? Alright, if you guys enjoyed that video, consider leaving the like and subscribing and using code WATSOG in the Fortnite item shop. And yeah, that's about it. See you in the next one. Later.